Now I do want to add some files to my queue. So this will be the files that I want to add or that I want to execute this command script on. I'll go ahead and do that now. So as you can see, hopefully I'm opening up a Windows Explorer with the location of my files, and I'll go ahead and add that first file here. Let's close that down and then move this back over. Okay, so I've just added that first file. I did that on purpose. You'll notice that if you noticed, I had a few other files in that same folder. And I did this on purpose because I do want to show you that if you do click on the file in here, or on the file name, you can swap out the name of the DGN with an asterisk so that it grabs all the DGNs in this folder. That way I don't have to go in and drag all of them. I can just drag or set up this set up this file name with the folder. And once I go ahead and run the batch process, which we'll do now, you'll notice that it has added all of the sheet files that I have in that folder. Notice that it has also added all the models that are in each of these sheet DGNs. So for SW3P_6, I have a copy of the default model. I'm assuming that might have been like a change in the design or some other thing here. So it'll grab all of the sheet DGNs and all the models in those sheet DGNs. Okay, so let's go ahead and run through this batch process. So let me move these out of the way here so you can kind of see what the batch process is doing. And then now that we have a good view, I'll go ahead and run the batch process. To do that, I'm going to hit this process button here. And then we'll watch as it slowly goes through each file and turns on that specific level. So we're running through a very simple command script here first, and that's kind of just to get our feet wet a little bit, kind of understand what the process is. But this is a pretty simple command script here. I do want to point out, I guess while we're waiting for this batch to process, I do want to point out that this particular key-in is useful only for turning levels on and off that are within the files that are called upon by the batch process. So key-in specifically, we can't turn on and off levels that are within a reference of the files that are called in here. So within any of the references in these SW3P sheets. I will go ahead and once this finishes processing, we'll show you how to write a command script and the key-ins necessary for turning the levels on or off in one of these reference files. So as you can see, as these files are being processed, it'll tell you the status at which which have been processed and which are still pending, and then the time it's taking. So I think this is very useful, especially with big sets, right? So obviously I'm not going to run a 50 file batch here, but sometimes those plan sets do get up to 100, 200. I've seen 300 sheets of PS&E, and so this is a very quick and efficient way, like what Sean was saying, working smarter. In running through each of those sheets, the computer is going to turn on, turn off levels kind of manually, mechanically, and it's a good way to get through a whole bunch of sheets without actually having to open them up yourself and potentially forgetting to turn on or off a level in one of these. So let's give it another second while it continues to run through the batch process. So once it's complete, that process or that cancel button will switch over to a done button, and you'll be able to see how long it took for each file to open and show whether it processed each file or not. So once I know that all the files have been processed, I'll go ahead and hit the done button. And if we do want to save, for example, I want to run another batch process on this sheet later, but I need to currently close the batch process dialog. And I'll go ahead and do that. I can hit save here. It'll do a save as, and I'll go and save it in my batch process sheet. So training, Mesa, design data. So I'll save it in my batch process jobs. So I'll call this SW3P sheets 1. Okay, and so by doing that, I'm able to open this set there or this queue later, pretty quickly instead of having to redrag them over. Okay, so we have gone ahead and turned on the level within each of those sheet DGNs. The next thing I want to show you is how to turn off a level within the reference. In this case, I'm going to turn off this road legend since this is an SW3P sheet. So we'll go ahead and do that. Like I did with the previous command script, I want to make sure that I am using the correct key-ins. So I'll first go ahead and use this key-in dialog. So the key-in that I want to use this time will be reference levels off. And then since the level name has a space in it, I do need to use a double quotation. And then I'll type in the level name, which is road legend, close the double quotation, and then type in all. So notice that it selects the references, and then now I just need to click a data point, and you'll notice that it's turned off the legend here. Okay, so let's go ahead and write a command file for that. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to the create new command file. It's going to ask me to save it. So I want to go to new commands. This one's going to be called turn off ref level. We're going to turn off a reference level. Obviously, this can be turned off, turned on. You just need to change the word, right? Okay, so let's see. The key in that we used was reference levels off, double quotation, typed in the level name, close the quotation, and then do all. And then here you could do a semicolon. And then if you want to just say, for example, you just want to do it on the specifically on view 1, you would do cell view 1. In this case, since I know I really only have something in view 1 that I want to turn off, I can just do cell view all. Okay. The next thing I do want to do is, so say for example, my file the last person that closed out of this file saved it and it looked kind of like that, right? Well, kind of more of a cat thing, right? I want to make sure that whenever someone opens up the file next time, the sheet is front and center. So to do that, let's go back to our key-in to make sure that we're using the correct one. I'm going to type in the next key-in, which is fit view extended, and hit enter, and that's just going to do a fit view. So I'll go ahead and add that to my command script here, fit view extended, and then I'll go ahead and add the file design that we talked about in our last command script writing, and that's just obviously it's a save setting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit file save on my notepad document, and then I'll go ahead and hit close here, move this batch thing back over, and okay, and so if I needed to edit it, I could just click on the pencil to make any changes, but I think we're good. So I'll go ahead and run the batch process once again. Like I said, this is going to be turning off that road legend that I have in each of these sheet DGNs. So I'll go ahead and process that now. And so we'll see as the road legend is turned off in the references, and then each of the sheets are moved front and center, and then the command script also goes through and saves the settings so that the level remains turned off. Okay, this one looks like it's going through pretty quickly. That's one of the other things that I kind of like about this is sometimes it just takes a really long time to open through each of these files and figure out where you have to click to do each of these, or perform each of these actions. And so there's a pretty easy way to make sure that you're turning off what you want and having the computer figure the rest of it. Okay, so it looks like that default copy 1 model is taking a little bit longer. Oh, there you go. It's running process through that one. Yeah, so I guess this seems pretty simple, but even though it's a simple tool, I feel like it's pretty powerful. Before I learned about this tool, I spent way too many hours going through each sheet and making sure that all of the sheets were nice and uniform and everything was turned on and turned off that needs to be turned on and turned off. So even though this seems, pretty simple, it can be, if used correctly, it can be pretty powerful. Let's go ahead and hit the done button here. It's shown now here that the road legend has been turned off. Okay, so I kind of did that on purpose because the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and attach a reference. And so for this demonstration, I'll be using this batch process tool to attach a specific model of my title sheet DGN to place an SW3P legend on each of my sheet DGNs. So the sheet DGNs have already been cut, right? And so since they're already set up, each sheet DGN will be in a different location and in a different orientation based off of the roadway alignment. However, I can leverage the fact that the DGN with the legend was created right at the XY equals 0, 0 coordinates. So I'm going to use that to quickly place this new attachment or this new reference attachment in the correct location and orientation. So as we did previously with the level off command script, I'm going to run through the key-ins in the dialog first to make sure that the command script is written correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so first one is going to be the reference attach. Okay, I'm going to type in reference attach and hit enter. So that'll open up this Windows Explorer, and it's going to ask me what reference I want to attach. I'm going to go ahead and select the correct file. In this case, it's going to be the roadway test, and the model is going to be this SW3P legend. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK here. And now instead of going and looking for that specific reference to move it with my cursor, I'm going to select or type in my next key in, which is going to be reference move. Okay, since now it's asking me to select the reference, I'm going to go ahead and type in the x comma y equals 0 comma 0 key in. And notice that once I hit enter and I move my cursor into the view, wait, should have worked here. I guess that one needs to be selected then. So then hit reference, move, okay, and then x comma y equals 0 comma 0. Obviously in the command script, it'll know which one or which reference to move because I'll tell it which reference I'm talking about. So I'm going to type in x comma y equals 0 comma 0, hit enter. And now that I've moved, reference move, enter point to move from. It's going to be okay. So it looks like it's asking me for a point. So I'll type in, this is the x comma y. So this is your absolute x equals 0 comma 0. So I'll type in 0, and that's what should have happened previously. So little bump, but that's okay. So now we have the reference from that bottom left point, and the next point that I'm going to place is going to be a user input data. And so I'll show you how to add that to the script in a second. But for now, we're going to go ahead and dynamically select it and place it in the bottom left of our sheet DGN. Okay? And so the next key in will be reference rotate. And I want to use the points method. So I'm going to type in point, hit enter. And so now it's asking me to enter pivot point by reference. In this case, I am going to do two user inputs. So I'll go ahead and use this as the first pivot point and then select an edge here and rotate it to its correct orientation. And we'll notice that that legend has appeared now. Okay, and then to end this, I'll go ahead and hit and do in the key in fit view extended and then file design. Okay, awesome. So go ahead and close this now. Okay, and so now I'm going to go ahead and write that in my command file since it's gone through I figured out what the key-ins are. So I'll go ahead and my new command scripts. I'll select or type in attach reference and hit save. Okay. And so here I'll go ahead and type in my command. So first thing that I want to do, or I guess the first one I typed in was reference attach. And that's going to be followed by the location of the reference that I want to attach. So I'll go ahead and copy that over. And then after this, we type in a comma. And the next thing we want to type in is the model name. So I'll go ahead and type in SW3P legend. That's the name of the model name. And then finally, we're going to type in 6 additional commas. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I won't go into detail on each of the placeholders between those commas, but let me see. You can go into the key-in index for the MicroStation Connect Edition help website, and it'll show you that this key-in for reference attach and what each of those placeholders between those commas are for. Most of those are for scaling, what the nesting is on, and then determining the logical name and description of the reference to be attached. Okay, so let me move that back out of the way. Okay, so that's the first key in is attaching the reference. The next one is going to be moving the reference. So we'll go ahead and type in reference move, once again followed by the name of the reference that we're moving. So in the same line, we can add a semicolon. And if you recall, at this point, I was struggling a little bit with the location of that first point. So here, we're going to type in xy equals 0, 0. So that's the first point. And then we'll add another semicolon. And then if you recall, the second point was a user input point. And so to do that with the batch process, we'll go ahead and type in the percentage and then a lowercase d. So that's going to let the script prompt the user to place a point interactively. So what I like to do here is the next key in, and I couldn't really use it there because it just wouldn't make sense. But I do like to do a batch process pause here. And that's just to make sure that my reference was moved to the correct position. If not, obviously I could dynamically move it back over. That's kind of just a check for myself. Okay, the next key in that we used was the reference rotate. So I'll type in reference rotate, and then I use the points method. So I'll type in point. So after that, I'll type in the reference that I want to rotate, which is this one. And then if you recall, the 2 data points for that one were also user input. So I'm going to go ahead and do a semicolon, %D, and then once again, for the second input point, %D. Okay, and then once again, like I said, for myself, I'll go ahead and type in batch process pause, and this will pause the batch process just so I can make sure that I rotate it correctly in that view or in that sheet DGN. And then like the others, I want to make sure that when I'm closing out of this sheet DGN, the sheet is front and center. I'll type in fit view extended, and then to save my settings, I'll type in file design. Okay, so that one was a little bit longer, but I think we got it. So let's go ahead and test this now. So I'll go ahead and hit file, save, and make sure and close out of my notepad. Make sure that the command file that I was just in is the one that's selected. And I won't run it through all of the sheets. I'll go ahead and just drag and drop a few of those sheets here. Let me go ahead and do that now. So I'll do it on, I'll just do it on the first 2. Okay. So now I have those first 2 sheets kind of just as a demonstration. And we'll go ahead and hit process here. And then hit the process button to actually run the job. And we'll see as it opens up that first sheet, notice that very similar to what we were doing previously through the key-ins. Once I move my cursor into the view, it's asking me for that first user input. And so I'm going to go ahead and select snap here if I can get it to snap. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit continue. And now it's asking me to select those inputs for the user, for the rotation, I mean. And then once I know that the rotation is set incorrectly, I'll go ahead and hit continue, and it'll save settings or fit view, save settings, and move into the next file, in which I will do the exact same thing. It's in the right spot. I'll hit continue. Now it's asking me to rotate. I'll go ahead and rotate here. It'll save settings and it'll finish. Okay, so go ahead and hit done here. And that's kind of that other command script. So I guess before I turn it back over to Sean, I like to say that I really like the batch process tool. I'm a great fan. I think Bentley did an awesome job. I think it's a tool that, lots of people maybe know that exists, but, have a little bit of a difficult time figuring out how to work it out. So hopefully this was useful for you guys. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can send something over my way, and we can try to work through it.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.